The word modify means to change something. So a modifier is a word or a group of words that changes something in a sentence. It changes some element of the sentence either by describing it or by telling when, where, or how. A modifier can be a single word like read wagon or drove quickly. Read describes or modifies the wagon, and quickly describes how the person drove. They are modifiers. A modifier can also be a phrase or a clause that describes or tells when, where, or how. For example, soon after the whistle blew, the train pulled into the station. Soon after the whistle blew is a clause that describes when the train pulled in. It's a modifier. How do you know what a modifier is describing? Well, typically it describes whatever it's next to. For example, a big bay horse with 4 white stockings trotted in the field. With 4 white stockings describes the bay horse because it's right beside it. So now we get to misplaced modifiers. A misplaced modifier is a modifying word, phrase, or clause that is not beside the thing it describes, which gives an incorrect meaning to the sentence. For example, while still on probation for auto theft, the judge found Jimmy guilty of shoplifting. Do you see what's wrong with this sentence? It says that the judge was on probation for auto theft. That's probably not what the writer meant. It's a misplaced modifier. To correct a misplaced modifier, sometimes all you have to do is move it. Other times, you need to revise the sentence to make the meaning clear. So, for example, in this case, you might revise the sentence to say, while Jimmy was still on probation for auto theft, the judge found him guilty of shoplifting. That makes more sense. You may have heard of a dangling modifier. Well, really, that's just a type of misplaced modifier in which the reader can't tell what it is that's being modified. For example, Mary had supper almost ready, bubbling and sputtering cheerfully on the stove. Well, what was bubbling and sputtering on the stove? Was it Mary or the supper? Neither one really makes sense. With a dangling modifier, sometimes the thing being modified isn't even in the sentence, and that actually happens more than you might think. To correct a dangling modifier, revise the sentence so the meaning is clear, like this. Mary had supper almost ready, the spaghetti sauce bubbling and sputtering cheerfully on the stove.